Welcome to I Have Some Questions. The show is all about asking questions our guests have never asked themselves before, never thought about, or been too afraid to explore. It's designed to uncover the human story at the root of successes and failures and help us as an audience learn and grow from that story. My hope is that you'll hear brilliant guests exploring new ideas and challenging themselves in new ways of thinking. I think this makes for great conversations. I'm going to bring on entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, scientists, and frankly, any vein of super interesting, successful, and passionate human I can find. I am fascinated by passionate people, and I have some questions for them. I'm Erik Berglund, and I hope you'll join me every week for new episodes. Welcome back to I Have Some Questions. I'm Erik Berglund, and we're making a slight change to our Monday episodes here. I've really struggled as I've launched this podcast with my solo episodes. And the reason was, if you've listened to any of them, you may have found, the idea of this podcast is I have some questions. And a lot of those episodes were showing up as I have some answers. And that's not what I was looking for. I didn't enjoy making them, even though I like talking about those topics and concepts. I just didn't feel like a podcast was the right way for me to go about it. I wasn't enjoying making them. And so I asked another stellar leadership coach if she would be interested in co-hosting the Monday episodes with me. So that's what's going to happen moving forward in these episodes. It's going to be a conversation around some of these questions with another highly qualified coach. And I think they should present a more interesting angle, and certainly they'll be more fun for me to make. So I'm hoping that that translates over to you. So my guest in these episodes, my co-host in these episodes is Alli Murphy. Alli is a leadership strategist, a coach, and a speaker, and she's the founder of Work and Thrive HQ. Alli primarily works with ambitious women leaders, and she tries to help them build careers that feel just as good as they look on paper. She's really known for being very warm, direct, and refreshing and practical. Hope that comes through in our conversations here. And she tries to teach a new playbook for leaders that blends ambition and well-being. She's been on over 650 stages as a speaker. She's worked with the largest companies out there, Microsoft, Best Buy, the Susan G. Komen Foundation. And before launching her company, she was a managing director that scaled seven-figure programs and really led organizational transformation while really championing a people-first culture and consistently taking 5 or more weeks of work-free PTO. She's very good at practicing what she preached. And today, her talks and programs really help women trade the old success playbook of always on for one that's really built on authenticity, energy, and leadership that lasts. And while Alli is primarily focused on working with women, she also runs My Language of Leadership program. She's the facilitator in those programs. That's how we've come to get to know each other better and better. And everything she talks about in her programs is highly applicable to us men as well. So I hope you'll join me in welcoming her on these Monday episodes. I'm going to post the links to her LinkedIn and her website and all those details in the show notes for Mondays. But I'll hope you'll join me for this episode of I Have Some Questions with my co-host, Alli Murphy.
All right, Erik, the holiday season is officially upon us. I've started calling deer reindeer. The Christmas trees are up, the holiday lights are going, and some of the things that I'm hearing from both women that I coach and just people that I'm talking to on LinkedIn are that Q4 feels like a slog. And people are like, I'm not close enough to the holidays to stop doing things, but I'm tired and I'm unmotivated and I'm feeling unproductive and I just want to be there, but I've got some big deadlines first. How do I handle this? How do I manage this? What would you say?
I think I have to ask an important qualifying question first, and that's, are you aware that deer and reindeer are different species of animals?
Yes. And we don't have reindeer in Bend, Oregon, and it is the holiday season. So I have just decided that any deer is called a reindeer over the holidays.
It's okay. In December, they identify as reindeer. It's just fine. That's how it works.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Exactly. And my puppy Moose doesn't know the difference, so he's fine with it. He likes to bark either way.
Fair. Okay. So how do you get your work done and stay focused during the holidays? Well, my unrealistic answer is a time machine is very helpful because doing a good job of navigating the end of the year starts in November, not December. And it's nearly impossible to all of a sudden start doing a good job in December. It's not impossible, but it's just really, really, really difficult because there's two things you're trying to do. Stay focused during the holidays and get things done and finish the year strong, and make sure your year actually begins January 5th, not February 5th. And quite often, because we don't start in November, we don't do any of the annual review, not just of your people, but of your processes, your systems, your outcomes, your milestones,
until
your
January.
beliefs, your self-care, your time management. We don't assess any of that until maybe the holiday break, when in reality, November is the best month to cast a backward-looking lens so that you can then go, okay, I know what I'm going to do in January. What do I have to do to get there?
Okay, so what you're saying is that next October, we'll re-record this episode.
Yeah,
but for this one, unless you know how to invent a time machine, I think we need a different answer.
Yeah, fair point. I think it requires a harsh look in the mirror to determine what really has to get done and why. Mm-hmm. How do you do it? Well, one of the reasons you're burned out is because you're start to decouple yourself or be disconnected from the value of what you're creating right now anyway. I literally went through this last week where I had to talk myself back into, oh yeah, this stuff does really matter and I can't punt it to January. And so I had to look in the mirror honestly and say like, well, what actually needs to happen before the end of the year and what would I need to do that? And I find that when I remember why something matters, I'm far more motivated to do it. And therefore I kind of solve a lot of the burnout type issue because the thing actually does matter. Alternatively, you might uncover that thing doesn't really matter. And there's really no efficient way to do something that doesn't need to be done. And so I think it's very fair to roll into December with the mentality of either it matters and I'm going to be motivated, or I should be honest and say, this doesn't matter by January 1st or December 22nd or whatever day you throw in the towel for the year. What about you?
Mm-hmm. I like that. I would also say sometimes it does matter and it's just something you really don't like doing. Or it takes a lot of...
my own business and I don't really want to deal with those things anymore. So, no, but you're absolutely correct. Please go on. You're 100% correct.
Or maybe you do, but the cognitive load is really high and your brain is just tired. And so two things that have come up for me in the past that have really helped are, one, gamifying the dang thing. Like, okay, if I get this done by X time in the morning, then I can go take a midday hot tub. Or once I finish this strategy deck, then I'm going to treat me and TJ, my husband, and we're going to go out for dinner. Like something gamified, or with my team, sometimes it's like, hey, we're going to get this done. And then we were all virtual. I'm going to send you all a Venmo so you can go get yourselves a fancy coffee. Like some way of gamifying it either for yourself or for the people that are around you. And then the second one, especially when I was just feeling blah and like did not want to do the things, was remembering that this job, even though I didn't want to do it and I was procrastinating and whatever else, enabled me to take the vacation or to have the PTO over the holidays or have my birthday off. And so I might not like the actual thing, but the sense of like gratitude that you slip into that way of like, no, I don't like this, but this allows me to do X was kind of a mental cheat code for me.
Do you have a good practice for how you can summon that spirit of gratitude amidst burnout, disconnect, decouple, lack of belief, all those things that can kind of ease their way in? Like, what's your play-by-play for how to fight that fight?
I had a folder on my desktop that was called wins. And I would go back and sometimes it was things that I had done, but a lot of times it was messages from clients of ours on how impactful a conference was or a webinar that I did or whatever it might be. And so being almost closer to the person or the people that we'd impacted was a big one. Another was sometimes you just got to leave the work alone and ignore it and forget it for a little while. So for me, that often looks like I'm going to go for a run. Like shut out the world, not even take my phone with me, no music or whatever, but I'm going to go out for a run. And then I might come back and write down 3 things that went well that day or 3 things that I'm grateful for about work, even if they're really tiny and hard to find. Yeah. And like forcing yourself to find them does more shifting than you would expect.
Thanks for those are really good. I'm going to add 2 to the playbook that I find to be really effective and are quite literally my game plan for December right now. It really comes down to calendar control for me, and then my self-care recipe. calendar control is really important for me because my default action is to go create opportunity with other humans. And so I will seek networking and I will uncover new sales opportunities and I will
all the time.
And it would be like how I will spend every day if I can. And yet I actually have to do some real work from time to time. And so I had to block out yesterday in my calendar. I was forced myself to sit down and block out every single day for the rest of this year. And with a giant 8 to 5 says no meetings. And I have client work to do in there. I've got some meetings that have to happen and those are important, but I'm not allowed to book anything new at all this year.
I'm going to go check your calendar after.
Yeah, seriously, you shouldn't see any Calendly availability. And if you do, I want to know because it's genuinely not. The exception is podcast, but even that's only podcast. There's no other meetings can take place on Tuesdays. So calendar control is a big part of it for me and being willing to acknowledge that any new opportunities I create right now aren't going to do anything in December. They're going to become January things anyway. So let's just acknowledge that and go do real work so that I can lean into the opportunities in January. And then the recipe part, and this isn't the recipe for everybody, but I can say pretty confidently most people would do better if their recipe involved some sort of fresh air, some sort of physical exercise, awareness of eating intentionally and not crushing yourself with a big sandwich midday, but doing something that's lighter. Getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, and getting good, healthy social interactions, whether that's with your children, your spouse, your friends, whatever. But that recipe, if you do that, and if yours is different, fine, just know it. Do your recipe. This is a month where you're cognitively not going to want to show up to do the things you don't want to do and need to arm yourself with every advantage to fight that fight. And you'll usually do better if you follow whatever your recipe for success is.
You're almost like putting things in the bank that future you will thank you for.
Oh man, I'm such a big fan of future me. I'm a pretty big, I want to do things that guy's going to appreciate and you have to do it this month. Like over the summer, less so. Right now, kind of gotta.
Yeah. I'm doing things a little bit, well, not a little bit differently, a lot differently this December. It's the first year in 7 years that I haven't been, I know, it's wild. My brain has not caught up. It's only December 2nd, but it's the first year in 7 years that I have not been in corporate in the middle of a sprint season for a big launch push for a conference, signing speakers, building out massive roadmaps, plans, etc. And I'm like, holy wow, this is different. And my high achiever self is wired to be like, well, let's add this and let's add this and let's add this. And so instead, I created myself a plan that's called Minimum Viable December. And there are only 6 things on there that I'm allowed to do, which means not adding new meetings, not taking on new projects, like it's existing client work, it's some of the stuff that I'm already doing. And it's a challenge for me. I'm like, but I could add this. And I'm like, no, it's going over here. So yesterday, during the day, I went and got a pedicure while I read a business book, but I got my pedicure. This morning, I went on a hike during the workday. And so that's not an opportunity that everybody's going to have. But since I do for the first time in 7 years, I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to take advantage of it. And I'm still going to come back and get my stuff done that really matters. But it's easier to do because I have these other things built into my December recipe.
What do you think would happen if you lived every month by the minimum viable philosophy? Like take a second and it's fun to laugh at that, but I think there's a lot of wisdom in acknowledging what's truly necessary and what's not. Like, what do you think would happen if you lived 12 months in a row of the minimum viable month?
I love that you've asked this because it's one of the things that I've been thinking about. Because we like to do more, we like to force things, we like to push. And by pulling back, even over the last 2 days, small examples, but I have 2 women who are ideal customers of mine who have reached out and said, hey, I want to chat, or I want to work with you, or can you send me the payment link? Which, again, could have happened at other times, but there's this interesting sense of like, I'm doing less and things are working quite well. And granted, it's day 2, so I want to see how the rest of the month goes. But it reminds me of kind of the 80-20 Pareto principle. Yeah. And also 10x is easier than 2x. Like, what are the things that really are the big levers that we should be pulling? And what are the things that might have some ROI, so we might not actually want to drop them. But if we did, we'd open space up for something else. So I don't have an answer to that yet, but it's something that I've been noodling on.
Well, you've given me a lot of food for thought, because in a year where I launched a podcast and a second business and a YouTube channel and I am very interested in, like, holy shit, how do I go to a minimum viable philosophy? And one of, like, that will go on my list now, what you just called it, but like,
yeah,
a big part of the days I blocked out where I'm not allowed to take meetings is genuinely thinking through, like, what needs to get done versus what doesn't. And thank you for sharing. Now I've got a leading terminology to use for that philosophy.
My minimum viable December is inspiring you.
It is. And because of it, that's what I'm going to leave everybody with, is Alli's minimum viable December philosophy for getting through the holidays during stressful times. What about you?
Well, you've stolen mine, so I'm going to come up with a new one. I would say that. And if that's all you do, great. Awesome. You're done. And if you want something more, this episode will release in a couple days, but that's okay. I would make yourself a list of, pick whatever number, but the number that comes to mind for me is 6 things you want to do before 2026. And on that list, I got this idea from somebody on Instagram whose name I don't remember. Otherwise, I would give her credit. She's a behavior change psychologist going through her PhD program. But hers was 26 before 2026. And on it, she puts a few things that are memory making. So what are some memories that you want to make this holiday season? A few things that are things that you've punted all year long. Like for us, it was purging the house, which we finally did. And the third one are a few things that your future self would thank you for. The only 2 rules are you can't put anything on the list that's recurring. So it can't be like have dinner at the table once a week. No, have dinner at the table once. Nothing recurring. And then the second rule is the measure of success is simply that you made the list and that you checked one thing off of it that you wouldn't have done without the list. So you don't have to do all 6 or 26. My list is 26 because I started it earlier. But as long as you do one, it's considered a win.
There's some Marie Kondo simplicity, does this give me joy mentality that I really like to that philosophy as well. So that's a great one. You had to come up with 2 and do the heavy lifting for all the good ideas this time. But thanks for joining me this week, and thanks everybody. We'll see you next week, and happy holidays. Thanks for joining us this week. Don't forget to take a second and subscribe. Maybe even share this episode with somebody it made you think of, or someone you think would take some value from it. This show is all about uncovering the brilliance and humanity of high performers. And whether those performers have a massive following or a podcast or a book, when they're a business owner, or they're buried somewhere in a corporation, or maybe they're a nonprofit leader, or they don't necessarily have to have a title. I'm really fascinated by people who are passionate and who are doing interesting things. So if you or somebody you know would be a good guest, don't hesitate to reach out to me on LinkedIn or send me an email at hello@languageofleadership.io to make that connection. I'll see you next week.